Here at California Insider, we have been covering the important topics that affect your day-to-day life. We present you with laws, policies, and issues so you can easily stay informed. As we continue to cover all these important topics, we want to provide you with an inside look at our state officials and lawmakers.
I introduced and was able to get a bill passed about the disabled workers being able to get the same minimum wage as all other workers. It's so important that people are treated respectfully with their work, regardless of where you were born or what language or what disability you have.
Today, we sit down with Senator Maria Elena Durazo. She will explain her driving motivations and give us an in-depth look into her background.
Sometimes I would come home and in the evening my father would bring a stranger into the house, and he was at the kitchen table and he was giving them a meal. And I was like, who is that? And he says, well, somebody I met who was hungry. So I truly believe it was the example that they set, that your faith isn't just some theory, that your faith is in practice. What do you do for other human beings?
I'm Siyamak. Welcome to California Insider. Maria Elena, it's great to have you on. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself as a senator?
Sure, and let me just, if I can, start with my life, having what was in my life, what have I been through to lead me to do the things I do today. So I come from a family of, my parents came from Mexico, northern Mexico, came to the U.S. to work and to help support the family. And they worked in the fields, picking the crops.
When was it?
This was in the late 40s, early 50s. So they came here with the whole notion that in the U.S., maybe they won't get the perfect life, maybe, but they will work hard no matter what, and they will teach all of us how to work hard. And so I grew up, as soon as I could walk, I was out in the fields picking crops, picking the food that you eat, the food on your table, the food that everybody
relies on. Like at 6 or 7 or 8, or what age?
I was at least 4 years old, somewhere around 4 years old, because if you could walk along the rows of the grapes, right? You could walk along the rows of the cotton. Or as I got 5 years old or 6 years old, I could take the water cans and go make sure everybody had water, right? And could have drinking water. So that's the start of my life. Working hard, working in the fields, moving from town to town to be able to satisfy your needs and other people's needs, working from very early morning to late in the evening, sometimes very, very hot, sometimes very cold. But that's what I grew up. And I felt like later there had to be more respect for that kind of work. Because as I grew up, I realized we were working very, very hard. Many, many times we had no roof over our head. We could not afford a roof over our head. We slept in what I call a flatbed truck. It was a truck. It had a little cover over it. And we all slept in there because we could not afford to pay for the rent many times. Other times we could. So I grew up thinking, there's something wrong with that picture. There's something should be done differently to show respect for hard work. And so that frame of mind followed me throughout my life.
And can you explain the moving around part? Is that normal in the agriculture work?
Yes, as a migrant farm worker, there are many who stay on a grower's field and they work year round and they stay where they're at. Our work was migrant, so we followed the crops. We were harvesting the crops. And so once the grapes were ready to be picked, we went to pick them, right? When the cotton was bloomed and you ready to pick the cotton. That's where we came in. So we moved from town to town depending on the crop. And my dad made the decision, okay, well, let's move over here. We think we could do better. So we lived year-round in a different town, depending on where we were working. So I went to different school every year for several years. And then eventually we started to settle down into a central place in Central California in the Fresno area.
How were you able to get to where you are today?
I would say I'm very grateful to my parents because my parents worked hard as well. My mom had to get up early in the morning, make the tortillas, fresh tortillas. She'd make our food, make our lunch. And so she taught me the value of hard work. My father also taught me the value of hard work. And so I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to work in the fields for the rest of my life because it was very difficult. But I also had a lot of respect for the people like my parents and my siblings who did that work. So I wanted to make sure that we were given the dignity that we deserved. Then I worked hard in school, studied really hard, and then I was able to apply to go to college. And I had an older brother who helped me. He went to college, and he helped me a lot so that I could go on to college. Then I graduated from college, and then I decided, what's really in my heart? What do I really want to do in my life? And I thought I wanted to be an attorney, and so I went to law school, but really what was in my heart was, what about all the people who work hard every single day and who don't get the fruits, literally the fruit of their labor, aren't able to get what's fair for themselves and their families as they grow up. My parents didn't expect to be wealthy, but I think they should have been paid more fairly. I think we should have had health insurance. I think those are very basic human rights that weren't respected. So after I graduated from college, I decided I want to do something more alongside people who I care very dearly about and do something different for them to have a better life.
If you like California Insider and you like to know what's going on in California, make sure to check out Epoch Times. This is a newspaper that started by a group of Chinese Americans because of human rights abuses in China, and now is starting to grow here. Make sure to go to the Epoch Times website and check out the California section, where you can get a lot of fresh perspectives on what's going on in California. Now let's go back to the interview. And was there a moment you figured out that this is what you want to do, and can you tell us about that moment?
Yes, I believe when I was in college, I realized that even though I was going to be better off, it was not fair for other people just because they were not college graduates. It was not fair for them to live in poverty like that. And so I saw the difference. Either you're for yourself and only for yourself, or will you use your education to not only uplift yourself, but also to uplift other people and side by side with other people. And here in the U.S., we are a democracy. And I wanted to make sure we could use our collective voice to make sure that we were treated better.
And was it difficult for your parents? So at that time, there were probably no labor laws at all.
Well, there were labor laws, but they didn't apply them in practice to everybody. Some working people had protections, and other working people did not have protections. So, for example, when you work in the fields, having access to water, right, clean water. You're working out in the fields; it's very, very hot. That was not a right that we have, but other workers in other industries probably had those.
Like drinking water,
Yeah,
just water.
didn't have drinking water. We had no shade if it got too hot. We had no access to bathrooms.
Wow.
I mean, there were some very basic things: water, restrooms. Those were kind of things that we should have had, but we didn't. Breaks, to take a break. And if you took a break, then you stopped working, then that means you made less money because it was all paid for. We got paid by the piece. So a bucket, right? If you fill the bucket, you get 10 cents, depending on the fruit or the vegetable that you were picking. Cotton, you have long sacks, and you fill them up, and then you go weigh them. And so 1 pound equals 50 cents, right? So you had to work continuously. If you took a break, then you lost money, right? It's not like hourly. If you had hourly, then you can take a break and you won't lose money, right? So those were the kinds of conditions that forced us to work a lot harder and not get what was.
And the money was not enough to.
That's right. That's right. The money was not enough to be able to many times put a roof over our head.
And now coming to today, it's still, California is getting very expensive. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, rents are going up.
Right.
Cost of living is going. What are your thoughts on that?
I think I think that we're still, working people are not making enough to be able to afford any kind of increase in food or rent or transportation. So I think one element that's very important is how much are you making? What's your salary? We were able to pass a bill that said healthcare workers should have an increase in their wages. Just a few years ago, during the pandemic, we said, healthcare workers, thank you. We said you are essential workers. We prayed for them and we praised them because we were in a pandemic and we wanted to show our appreciation because they were saving our lives. They were risking themselves for us. And yet, just 2 years later, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if they can pay the rent. It doesn't. They're not essential anymore. We don't need them anymore. So we changed our attitude because we didn't need them with the same urgency that we did before. So we were able to get the support here of legislators to say, yes, we still appreciate you. Yes, we still respect all your hard work and still in the healthcare industry. So we're able to pass legislation and got the governor's approval to increase their wages.
Now, Maria Elena, you said that at some point in your career, you had a chance to go do your own thing, right. But then you decided to help others.
Right.
Where did you learn that?
I'm sure I learned it from my parents. My parents had a very deep faith, religious faith, and they applied that. I saw them apply it. It wasn't just go to church on Sunday and sign of the cross and that was the end of it. No, on Sundays, they would go visit people who were ill in the hospitals, or they would go visit the elderly, or they would do things to help other people. Sometimes I would come home and in the evening my father would bring a stranger into the house, and he was at the kitchen table and he was giving them a meal. And I was like, who is that? And he says, well, somebody I met who was hungry. So I truly believe it was the example that they set, that your faith isn't just some theory, that your faith is in practice. What do you do for other human beings? And I believe that had a lot to do with what I decided to do in my life.
And they didn't tell you, but they showed you, right? Is that you just...
That's exactly right. And everything they did, they contributed their time, to others. And I think that had everything to do with my decisions later in life.
And how did that work for you? If you between these choices, can you tell us the highs and lows of this career?
Oh, it's been nothing but ongoing highs. Ongoing highs because I believe in the strength of collectively standing up for what's right, collectively standing up for what is fair, and that really is an important part of what I do today. I am not here as a California state senator just saying, I'm going to solve all the problems. Don't worry about it. Stay home. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of you. I don't say that because I believe that everyone should participate in the process. I believe everybody should collectively, engage with each other so that we could come up with solutions and then fight for those solutions. You believe in it, then do something. Do something about it. So I'm very committed to a collective process. I believe in that very much.
And is there moments where it's rewarding for you?
Yes.
What do they look like?
Of course. I carried legislation, for example, to help garment workers. And garment workers, many of them, it was very common for garment workers not to get paid even minimum wage because the piece rate.
And then the way the rate works is like hard to make that many in an hour, or then you get
Exactly. So they came to me and said, we're working very hard, but this piece rate system doesn't allow us to make enough. No matter how hard we work, we can't keep up. And so we worked on it for a couple of years, and we were able to change the piece rate so that it doesn't exist anymore. You have to have an hourly rate. You could give bonuses, but no more piece rate in California. We were the first state in the nation to do that. And that was all because these garment workers would come and they would visit the legislators and they would explain to the legislators what it was like to sew the clothing and what it was like for them, how much they made, why it was difficult, and they engaged with the legislators. And it was beautiful. It was wonderful. I was so proud because they really carried out the message in a very, I'm a human being. I need to be able to, make enough money to support my children, instead of having to take their children to the factory and then take a break from the factory, go take them to school, and then pick them up from school and then take them back to the factory. That's not the life that we should all. Our children should not have to do that. They should be able to enjoy themselves, have a beautiful life, instead of having to go to the factory floor. So all those stories came out, and many, many more stories came out. And then they won the support of small businesses. And small businesses said, Los Angeles is the home of the most skillful garment workers in the country. That's why we're here. So we want to support them. So they supported, small businesses supported, eliminating the piece rate. And they said, we know it's going to cost more, but it's the right thing to do, is reward these people, mostly women, mostly immigrant women from different parts of the world. It's better to reward them for what they're doing, what's fair. And so it was a great time. We all celebrated that.
What was the gap? How much were they underpaid?
Oh, they were making as low as $5 an hour.
Wow.
And the minimum wage at that time was around $16 an hour.
Going to public service, do you do you recommend others to get into it?
Absolutely. I think that public service, now, not everybody is made. It's like any other career, right? You have to believe in it. You have to believe in democracy. You have to believe in listening to other people. You should not just like, I have the answer and everybody else is wrong. You should really believe in listening to other people, pay attention to what other people have to say. And so, and you have to work long hours and you have to study things that you're not, you weren't brought up understanding. A lot of things on the climate that I didn't understand before, and I'm learning more about it because I invite people to come in and make a presentation to me. What about the climate? What do we do? Where does this all lead us? What's the best kind of solutions to that? How do we address that? More fires, that we're facing in this state, right? What kinds of jobs? What's the economy going to look like? Those are all things that you learn. You can learn, you should learn, right, as a public servant, so that then you're better equipped to be able to come up with what you think are the solutions. I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy debating with them and showing respect, because even if we don't end up on the same side of a piece of legislation, at least we engaged. And usually, no one perfect when it is introduced, no one bill is perfect when it starts the process, right? Usually there's some changes, some amendments, and that comes with debating. And, do you have the support? Do you have, is this the right way to go? Well, I didn't understand that point of view. Oh, now I have another point of view. Oh, no, I still believe in my point of view. So you debate back and forth. It's a very intense process. So hopefully you believe in that and you're not, you're going to, take the time that it takes, many long hours. And then you have to build relationships with other legislators so that you can have candid conversations.
Has it become difficult? Because in the last few years, there's some division. Has it become different for you?
There are some issues that I just want to keep focus on what my life has been about. I try to stay focused. Now, there's a lot of other issues that are connected, right? For example, I introduced and was able to get a bill passed about the disabled workers being able to get the same minimum wage as all other workers, right? Now, I had never specifically worked with disabled workers, but for me, it's so important that people are treated respectfully for their work, regardless of where you were born or what language or what disability you have. And so we got built up the support to eliminate a sub-minimum wage. There was a sub-minimum wage. So if you had a disability and you're working, somebody could use that to pay you less than the minimum wage for everybody else. So we changed that and we eliminated and said, if you're working, and you're working like everybody else, then it should be the same minimum wage. So there are many ways in which we could make life more fair to everybody.
And in terms of younger people getting involved with public service, whether it's helping in the community, and what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think it's great. I had a panel of. I went to a class in East Los Angeles Community College, and I went to go listen to them. I went to listen to them about where they were working, what were they doing, what did they think about the kinds of policies that the state government could introduce and pass. And they were brilliant, they were great. And it was the best part of a 2-day retreat that we had in our office, and they had real life, experiences from which they were saying, now this is the policy that we think would work. So, but we all, even as you get older, you still have good ideas, right? It's not just young people who have good ideas, because we all have our experiences. Plus, we continue to live life, right? So how do you pay the bills? Oh my goodness. Well, I need this. I need government to, help me as a person who works hard every single day, stand up for me, make sure that there's no abuses out there. That's what I think people expect from government. And young people expect it as much as older people expect it.
And now, during this time, like cost of living has gone up, and the people you're helping, you're trying to champion for the people that are low income, right? Mm-hmm. And do you have a message for the people that are struggling? Yeah,
well, it's not just the very low income, right? This is people of all, it's of nurses and teachers and healthcare workers. They expect what you and I would expect. If I work hard every single day, I should be able to have the basics that my family needs. That's what they expect, and that's what our team, we try to live up to.
And your parents, going back to them, when you got involved in all of this, what were their thoughts?
Oh, I think they understood what I was feeling. They supported me in my efforts and my endeavors. They were very proud that I went to college. They had not had that opportunity in their lives to go to college. So they supported me very much, because they also knew that in the end, I was fighting for people like them. This was about people like them. And so even though they probably wanted me to do something else, but what they really wanted was for me to be helpful to people like them, just like they were to others. I think the issue of having these really basic needs, we're going through a change in our economy, both the state, the country, and the world. And as we do that, we should always keep in mind what working people should have in their lives. So, for example, in this new economy, how do we make sure that billionaires don't get the rewards while working people get left out, right? So that's a very important, I think, very important for us to include in our debates, in our conversations, and in our legislation.
There is some phenomena that's going on in California, that there is a big divide between the haves and have-nots. The people that are doing the manual physical work, hard work, from farms to manufacturing, they're kind of getting left behind. There's a big division. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think a lot of people are getting left behind. There's a lot of technology workers, right, who are not getting the same kind of support. For example, if you get classified as an independent contractor, right? Sometimes that truly is an independent contractor. Sometimes it's someone who is not. And so there's abuses in that system. So we just have to make sure, whether you're a farm worker, a truck driver, or a tech, a computer programmer, whatever the different classifications are, that we're all getting what is a fair way to move forward in their lives. And so I really do think that it's not just the low income, we want to raise. We want to make sure everybody is treated properly.
Why do you think people are not getting treated fairly? When you see the cases, what do you think is the reason?
Oh, I think that in some cases there is fear by the workers. There's fear that they will be fired if they expect or they speak up for a higher wage. There's so losing your job is the biggest fear that they might have. So, we just have to make sure that there isn't that the laws with regards to retaliation, that we make sure people have the opportunity to raise their voice and say what they think is fair without the fear of getting fired from their job. So, but we have good protections. We just have to make sure that they're enforced. In California, there's wage theft, a lot of wage theft, that people aren't properly paid.
Like they're not getting minimum wage.
They're not getting minimum wage, exactly. So we need to do more, but those workers ought to be able to say, I worked, you owe me, you should pay me. If you don't, then government will, an agency will be there to defend my rights.
Now, you must have been in a lot of different negotiations. Has there, or complicated ones, has there one that stood out to you?
I think that when we introduced the bill for the healthcare workers to receive a raise, at first it was very contentious with employers, but after we really dug down deep and we were respectful of each other's difficulties, the point of view, then we came up with something that worked for this part of the healthcare industry, and then something that worked for this part of, small hospitals or big hospitals. There's different dynamics in the economy, so we're able to come up with something that they even supported. So it was a good example of where you start out with differences and eventually we came up with. Now that doesn't happen all the time, but I think it's a good example of negotiating.
What are your thoughts on the future of California?
I think California has all the best things that you could need in a state. We have the mountains, we have the beaches, we have deserts, we have a diversity of people from all over the world. I think we have people who've come from hundreds of countries because of their strong belief in this nation, in democracy, but they also believe hard work will be rewarded, right? So that's the best of California. We have entrepreneurs, we have innovation, we have all of that. We have the 4th or 5th largest economy in the world. So, it's not the first time we'll always have some challenges, all the time. But we get through them because we have that kind of diversity and a real belief in ourselves, real hope in ourselves. And so we just have to make sure that government steps in to make sure that people aren't abused and exploited. That's the most important thing.
We are honored to be sponsored by Shenyun. Shenyun Performing Arts is reviving 5,000 years of lost Chinese traditional culture. It takes you back in time to the magical world of ancient China with a unique blend of brilliant dancing, beautiful costumes, and legends coming to life. The show choreography and production values are top-notch. However, it isn't just the technical ability of the dancers, it's the inner beauty and the devotion of the artist that will stir your soul to move you to tears. Make sure to go see it this year. Go to shenyun.com and book your tickets today.
It was spectacular, so beautiful.
I thought I was going to heaven.
Oh, it was electric.
I'm getting chills talking about it.
It gets a 10 from me, that's for sure.
It was that good.
Absolutely marvelous.
Hands down, the best show I've ever seen.
you came from the farm work background, but you are very passionate about the hotel industry.
Sure.
Can you tell us how this happened?
Sure. I was an organizer with hotel workers, but what moved me and attracted me was that there were some very strong women who work in the hotel industry. And I found that these women who were cleaning the rooms were having a lot of health and safety issues, really hurting themselves, hurting their knees because they bend over so much, their backs, their, it was just a lot of issues. And so I got involved as an organizer with them to saying, okay, if you want to change your working conditions, you have to learn to stand up for yourselves, learn to stand up for what you need. And so I was very proud. I loved working with them because they had children who they cared about and loved, doing their best. I would hear about one of their children getting on through school and become college and graduate. And so all of these things inspired me. It wasn't just helping them. They're not charity cases. It inspired me to be with them. And so that was how I got involved with them. And, when we won, we would win a union contract with health care benefits or the right to, during the pandemic, a lot of hospitality employers wanted to replace those women with other workers, and they were like, no, we passed a bill that protected them being able to get their job back. As business increased, then they would be able to get their jobs back. So yes, hospitality is very close to my heart, especially the women who work so hard cleaning those rooms.
One other thought is that there's different minimum wages for different groups of people. Like, so we have the fast food, they have the $20, and then we have the healthcare workers, and then we have the minimum wage. How does that work?
Well, obviously, I think that regardless of the industry, right, every person who works should have a standard that allows them to be able to buy the things and sustain themselves and their families and even buy a home. I mean, that shouldn't be such a dream, right? It should be readily available to anybody. So I think everyone should have whatever wage it takes to survive and raise their family. The reality is that, some industries were able to pass a higher minimum wage, and then there's other industries that we're not able to pass it. We don't get the support from some of the elected officials, some of those state legislators. And so we're able to make the case for why healthcare workers, we have a healthcare worker crisis. We don't have enough healthcare workers. And so in our opinion, in order to attract and retain healthcare workers, right, we need, part of the solution is to pay them a wage that supports themselves and their families, especially with all the risks that they're taking. So we're able to make that. And I wish I could just say, okay, across the board, everybody's at $25 an hour, but that's not able to do that. So we take industry by industry to see, can we increase it, and hope that then spills over and other workers are able to get increases as well. I believe in all Californians. I believe in making sure that there's no disparities and no differences amongst us, that we really watch out for all Californians. So for me, it doesn't matter where you were born, it doesn't matter if your immigration status. If you're a Californian, we watch out for each other. We take care of each other. And so that's my belief. I hope that, and I see every single day people who have the same belief, so we're able to do better for all Californians. And labor standards is very important to me personally because of my life experience as a farm worker, because of my life experience next to hotel housekeepers, right, I want to I want to encourage us all to have, exercise your voice, exercise your right to speak out. And I hope that you support the kind of good standards, job standards, labor standards that any human being would want in their job.
Senator Maria Elena Durazo, it was great to have you on California
you.
Insider.